What comes to mind when you hear the word classic? It might be a fighting game that punctuated your childhood, an adventure that piques your imagination, or a favorite RPG that keeps you coming back. For many, though, it's impossible to hear the word classic without immediately thinking of Mario. Whether it's teaming up with Yoshi to kick Bowser out of Dinosaur Land, or exploring the wacky creative corners of the galaxy, Mario's adventures have been special to so many people. And today, we're taking a look at the game that started it all. Hi there, my name is Daniel, and I think Super Mario Bros. Is pretty creative. It's pretty hard to imagine the world of gaming today without thinking of the name Mario. But back in the early 1980s, the mustached plumber, called Jumpman at the time, was just another contender in the increasingly saturated world of arcade cabinets. The video game industry was rapidly declining, as developers were using up the diminishing supply of hardware resources to pump out piles of half-baked titles and shameless movie tie-ins. As the shovelware increased, the general interest in gaming decreased, and it seemed as though this fun pastime would soon be written off as just that, a thing of the past. But all of that changed when Nintendo dropped this gem on the market. When Super Mario Bros. Hit the scene in 1985, it was quite literally unlike anything the gaming world had ever seen. For starters, home console gaming had only been around for about a decade, and given that most games at the time were extremely basic arcade-style experiences, the idea that you could embark on a grand adventure from the comfort of your own living room was pretty much unheard of. But now, anyone who owned a Nintendo Entertainment System or a Famicom in Japan could journey to the Mushroom Kingdom, a vibrant, expansive world with 32 unique side-scrolling stages across multiple varied environments. And the goal wasn't just to beat a high score and memorialize your initials at your local arcade. No, the objective was to defeat Bowser, rescue Princess Peach, and save the Mushroom Kingdom. Now, of course, the narrative in and of itself is nothing to write home about. Mario games have never been known for their groundbreaking storytelling, as they've more often than not become the poster child for Nintendo's design philosophy, putting fun first. But the story didn't need to be anything special. The fact of the matter was that Super Mario Bros. Was an adventure on a scale never before seen in the world of gaming. Its original debut in '85 was groundbreaking to say the least. But for the purpose of this reflection, I've been primarily playing the game's remake as part of the Super Mario All-Stars bundle for the Super Nintendo. It brought some clear graphical upgrades, as well as a handful of quality of life improvements, such as saving your progress and not booting you back to World 1-1 after a game over. Thank you. Now, the purists out there are probably scoffing right now about the minor changes to the game's physics and speedrunning potential, but I'm not here to get in the weeds on those things. The remake was created to celebrate the original's legacy, and that's what I'm going to do too. One of the first things that immediately stands out to me upon booting up the game is its level of polish. I know it may not seem like it when compared to more modern titles, but seriously, put this game up against pretty much anything else released at the time, and you'll see what I mean. Everything from the stage design, to the enemies, to the basics of Mario's movement. It all functions pretty intuitively, and for a game with such an unprecedented scope for the time, it's really impressive to see how well everything works together. What's even more impressive, though, is how Nintendo nailed Mario's movement. Mario games have always been known for how fun and intuitive it feels to just move around as Mario, and the same can certainly be said here, all the way back at the first game in the series. Mario's speed, momentum, and jump, it all feels natural and responsive, albeit a little more stiff than his movement in later titles. I grew up on Super Mario World and the 3D games, so the ability to change direction and correct small errors on the fly in a Mario game has always just come as an expectation for me. But that is certainly not the case here. Mario takes a while to build up running speed, he slides when he stops, and changing his mid-air trajectory is about as quick as pushing blocks in Ocarina of Time. The result is a Mario who feels markedly heavier than he does in later titles. His movements are responsive and intuitive, sure, but the little guy just doesn't have the same turnaround time as he would later on. And because changing directions is tougher in this entry, each and every button input needs to be intentional. Haphazard button mashing won't get you very far this time around. You're pretty much required to commit to each movement you're making. And more often than not, that means paying dearly for your mistakes. But it's not just Mario who feels stiff and unforgiving in this game. The world itself feels just as stubborn and out to get you. Trying to walk back to a power-up you missed will reveal very quickly that in this adventure, the screen doesn't scroll backwards at all. And speaking of power-ups, you only have the Super Mushroom and Fire Flower, and they are very few and far between. No gimmicks, no cape feather allowing you to skip the stage, just the occasional pick-me-up to allow you to tank another hit. All of this adds up to a much more challenging experience than I'm used to getting from a Mario title. 8 worlds with only 4 stages each? Sounds like a cakewalk, huh? I mean, Super Mario World has 72 stages total, so only 32 should be a breeze to complete, right? Wrong. Very wrong. I spent pretty much the same number of hours completing both games, and in this one, over half of that time was spent in World 8 alone, yeesh. And I'm playing the updated Super NES version, with checkpoints at the beginning of each world. I can't even imagine how long it would take to defeat Bowser playing on the NES original back in the day. Nintendo's MO with difficulty in Mario games would later develop as making the main game pretty approachable, while saving the challenging stuff for the bonus worlds. But there are no bonus worlds here. No, just 8 grueling gauntlets of steadily increasing difficulty. There's no fluff, no frills, no extra content this time around. Just a singular goal to slowly and surely step closer towards. Super Mario Bros. Doesn't just demand mastery of its mechanics before it hands over victory, it outright requires it. And the result, honestly, is a truly rewarding feeling of accomplishment when at last Mario hits that final axe and sends Bowser plummeting into the lava below. You didn't stumble into this victory, you earned it. I was a little worried that going back and playing this game would just show its age and how much better Mario's later adventures would be. But after stepping into Mario's original shoes and hopping around the 8 realms of the Mushroom Kingdom for a while, I can genuinely say that I had a blast completing this game. I will always enjoy Mario games for their fun-loving natures and wacky power-ups, but I'll also never get tired of mastering their mechanics, of slowly learning the intricacies of Mario's moveset each time around. And all of that started right here. Truly, it is incredible to see that although many of the bells and whistles would come later, the Mario we all know and love was there from the very start in 1985, running and jumping his way to the flagpoles of our hearts. In reflecting upon my experience with this game, the word I keep coming back to is intentionality. Intentionality in the design of Mario's mechanics, intentionality in the intricate details of the Mushroom Kingdom, and intentionality from us, the players, as we are required to learn this game and move through it with purpose in order to complete it. And to invoke that sense of mindfulness in the player is no small feat on Nintendo's part, because I can't even tell you how many games I've finished just kind of mindlessly following the critical path until the end. Super Mario Bros. Required me to constantly make purposeful choices in order to succeed. And as I slowly learned more about Mario, as well as each stage, I began to appreciate the level of love, care, and yes, intentionality poured into every detail of this truly wonderful game. Super Mario Bros. Almost single-handedly saved the video game industry, in large part because of its mindful, focused design. But what about you? Is there a creative project you're working on right now? Or maybe just a goal you're striving towards that seems just out of reach? Make a step towards that goal today. It doesn't have to be a big one, but learn something, make something, do something. If this game has taught me anything, it's that every small moment of learning, even in failures, adds up. So make a step, move with purpose, because that final flagpole might be closer than you think.